Bring it up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today, we've got the awesome Alexandre with us, who's part of Tango Golf Tango, which is an awesome group. Thank you very, very much for coming along today and sharing your story with us. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, of course. Well, my name is Alexandre. It sounds French because I'm from Montreal, Quebec, and it's the French province of Canada, and basically the only French province, the only place in America that we speak French. So that's why my English sometimes is a little bit. You can hear a little bit of my French accent in it. I'm from a band called Tango Golf Tango. We're playing dark tropical music. And so yeah, we're playing dark tropical music, which is kind of a blend between the drummer's taste, which is Afro music, and the keyboardist taste,
Love it.
which are more of the like dark synths from the UK. So
Yeah,
basically, it's a blend between,
I
and
love
I
it.
like 60s. So it's kind of a mix that doesn't it shouldn't work, but it does.
It's a lovely infusion you've got going on there. So thank you ever so much. Thank you for coming on the show as well. And do you want to
Thank
tell us a little
you.
bit more about and I apologize for saying your name wrong as well because I use the Spanish version, so I do
No
apologize.
problem.
Do you
You
want to
call
tell
me
us?
Alejandro, I don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to tell us how long you've been doing this for and how you got into music in the first place?
Yeah, forever. I'd be doing this forever because before Tango Golf Tango, I had a band with Francis, which is also part of Tango Golf Tango, and we released the first EP in 2012,
Yeah.
and it was under the name Golden Tribe. And I've been playing music in a rock and roll 60s band, a cover band. We used to play like the Beatles, of course, and 60s music.
Yeah.
And I had another band that we did our own original material in French. So I've been doing this for quite some years now.
Okay, so was it a passion or was it kind of an educational route that you took? Or did you have a education along the way?
I don't know if it's a passion or a curse. Depends.
I don't
Well, well, I try to take it as a beautiful gift, but sometimes it's a gift that's hard
swallow.
to swallow. Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
but I can't live without it. So basically, it's I was born into like a home full of Beatles memorial, Beatles music, I would say, and
Yeah,
then it just got on me, and my only passion is doing all of this, not for the fame, not for the money, but to meet Paul McCartney. Basically, it's the only
really,
reason I'm doing this. Yeah.
really. I work with someone that's actually working with Paul McCartney at the moment. So
Really?
funny you said that. Yeah. So Paul
Who
McCartney,
is it?
I can't tell you that because of privacy concerns. But yeah, I've got a lady
Perfect.
I was working with, and she's actually now working at the same school that Paul McCartney works at as well. So yeah,
That's
it's a real
awesome.
inspiration to a lot of us in the UK, actually.
Actually, one of my friends just told me recently, I've been friends with her for like 10 years, and she just told me, yeah, my mom did an album with Paul. I'm like, wait, what? We've been friends for 10 years and you never told me that? And she's, yeah, you can check on his like Spotify. It's called Les Flûtes Enchantées or something like that in French. And she did like she plays flute and she
So
played on Paul's album. So I was like,
wow,
well, I'm closer and closer. I'm
what a
I'm
privilege.
coming, Paul.
What a privilege. And I was also going to say to you, like, obviously, you've been in the music industry and you've obviously been doing it for quite a while now. What
Yeah.
kind of struggles and barriers have you faced accessing the music industry?
Well, there's a lot. You have like a few hours since for because it's never ending because it's always like the well, of course, everybody's telling you about the money probably, but it's
Mm,
kind of you have to work because I managed to be a full-time musician for like 2 years, which
yeah,
is kind of it's a big uh, accomplishment, I would say, especially in Quebec because it's such a small province. We
yes.
so I've been able and I've been yeah blessed to yeah
Wow.
thank you.
You just keep going.
Well well so for 2 years, but it's always hard because it changes your approach to music. You're like, yeah, we have to make a song that's going to play on the radio, so it changes your all your it changes your art. So I'd rather have my because I'm a social worker as well.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'd rather be a social worker and do the music I like than
Uh-huh.
trying to write some stuff that's going to play on the radio just to make a living. So now I'm free as a bird,
And
like
how do
John.
you find it being in a band as well? Because I know you're part of the band and it's got dynamics and it costs a little bit more to be in a band because you've got different personalities, you've got to rely on other people, there's more touring costs. How do you find that and has that impacted your career?
Yeah, well, it has like you can be a solo act and it has some tr you can have some struggles and you can be a band and it has other struggles, but I've been fortunate enough with to work with the Francis. We've met in the zootherapy. We've been doing zootherapy many
Oh,
years ago,
yeah,
and we've been co-workers for like 15 years. So we have like a really good communication, and he's a really nice guy. So I'm lucky enough. And Phil, I think you talked with Phil.
yeah.
He's an awesome guy. So I've been fortunate enough to work with him, and we've been creating for like we've been doing this album for like 4 years in the studio, and now it's finally out. It's been out for a year now,
Mm.
and but yeah, we face a lot of struggles. But we challenge ourselves. We like
Yourself
we
out.
all have our. It's like a company. All have our roles and responsibilities, and everybody's holding up to this project. So
Oh, that's awesome. I
yeah,
really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the work that you all do as well to stick together and be a team because it sounds
yeah,
like you're close knit and you're very tight, which is really, really important actually.
yeah.
For any projects that you're doing. So how do you kind of fund your projects and how do you move that forwards? And how's the music over in Canada right now for the music that you're doing?
Well, there's a few answers for that. We've been because with my other band, I sold a song for a TV commercial.
Yeah,
So I had a little bit of money
yeah,
and I bought an iPad and I started like sketching and we did some merch. Not that one. That's another band from Montreal that's doing quite well in the States and the UK. It's called La Sécurité. You should check it out. It's
yeah.
really awesome. But I've been doing a lot of merch for our band, and we've been selling out all of our merch. Like we did a t-shirt, and in 24 hours they were all gone. So it we managed to pay for our our PR. In French, we say RP, but for PR, and we ended up magically on television on prime time after spending
Congratulations.
4 years stuck in the studio. We spent 4 years in the studio like rats working on our stuff, and we released our album and we're prime time on television, band of the month. So that's how we managed to fund our project. And yeah,
Well done, you. So, what would you say to kind of bands that are just starting out right now? They might have been in the studio for a couple of years, they're struggling, they're thinking, how am I going to make it? What kind of advice would you give to them?
well, after many years in the industry, I would say just do it because you like it, not because of the recognition or what you expect
Hmm.
of getting in return. Just do it for the process. Do it
The passion.
for the love of music and do it for the love of art and not expecting people to like it because maybe like Paul's first album, because I'm always going to talk about Paul.
Yeah.
Paul's first album was destroyed by the critics, and it's possibly one of the best albums out ever. So just fucking do it.
Right. What you're saying, follow your heart, follow your passion, and follow your
Yeah, I
dream.
know it's cliche a little bit, but I I've been like it's only recently that I've been understanding what the whole like do it for you from your you have to do it for your heart and you have to do it for the love of the music and the love of arts, but when you try to make it a living out of it, you always have in the back of your mind that well, I have to pay the rent. I have to pay for everything. So basically it fucks up your creation process. So
Agree. I totally agree with you. And would your advice be? Follow your own unique style, or try and fit into what everyone else wants?
I would say go to therapy because you have to
I
find out
do
who
that.
you are. You have to find out who you are
Yeah,
and what you want to show. And it's always hard to show who you are
yeah,
and get, I don't like it.
yeah.
So you basically it's kind of a struggle to should I show something that people will understand and like, or should I expose myself even
Which,
though I might be
yeah,
people won't like it.
yeah. And that's very vulnerable as well, isn't it?
It is.
Especially for men, because I think, women are more open to being vulnerable, but men more so might not be open to even talking about some of the issues or being open with that. So how do you find that?
Well, it's a good point. Well, there's a song I'm currently writing.
Yeah.
It's in French. It's in how would you translate that in English? But it's like j'aurais beaucoup de choses à dire, which could translate to I could say a lot of things, but
Right.
basically that's the only lyrics in the song. So I'm not saying anything except I've got a lot of things
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
So that's why I like Kurt Cobain a lot, and
So
he
do
would
I.
say a lot of things and metaphors. That's what I like. So it's a
As
way
well.
of exposing yourself, but not too much. But
Yeah.
speaking from your heart.
And it's also people can kind of translate into their own meaning. So you could say one thing, and someone could listen to your song and say, actually, that relates to me, but in a completely different way, which
That's
is
it.
something I also really love as well, actually, about music, because it's kind of personal to you and your experiences, isn't it? And drawing that in from the music that you hear, which I think is
Exactly. Exactly, because we have a song called Modern Fencing, but it's not about fencing, of course.
right. Exactly.
Uh,
Right. Yeah.
it's about like taking a step forward and the other takes a step back. And so it's kind of a dance.
Yeah.
That's
It's
maybe
how,
the link.
isn't it? It's
It's
how,
tango.
yeah. And what's the kind of thoughts and feelings at the moment around equality and diversity over in Canada, where you are right now? Is it very diverse? Is it representative? And have you got lots of different genres?
Well, back in the days, we used to have like a French MTV, which was called Music Plus,
Yeah.
and we discovered so many bands with that TV show. Well, it was kind of a channel, and we discovered so many bands. There's a band in French again called the Breastfeeders, and they're awesome. They're probably one of the best bands in Quebec. But if it wasn't for Music Plus, I wouldn't ever hear the breastfeeders on the radio or on TV. So I think it's hard to just like, well, through internet, but then again, it's always kind of challenging. And no more music stores. So it's kind of hard to discover new bands. You really have to be in them. I used to write for a blog, and that was my way of like knowing new bands. Um, and like La Sécurité. And so it's kind of hard, especially for like uh, we're in a French province. So if you're starting an English band in a French province, it's kind of like a suicide because you know it's going to be it's probably going to be impossible, except if you have like connection outside of Canada. So that's why we're working hard on the UK because we love the music from the UK. And
We love Canadians, and we always have had big respect for you and for French people as well, because we're part of Europe, but we're in the middle of you all. So I think we've got
yeah,
big for North America, sorry, and for Europe. And I think it's really, really important that we showcase, talent from different places and tell stories. So
yeah.
how do you feel that that's going at the moment in Canada? Do you find that a lot of the grassroots venues are suffering with the cost of living? Is a lot of those closing? Is there more opportunities or less now for emerging talent?
Yeah, well, there used to be a like beautiful spot in Montreal called Le Divan Orange, which could translate to the orange couch. And it was probably one of the best places in Montreal to do some gigs. And a neighbor didn't like the sound, so he made a complaint, and they had to close it down. And there's another big venue in Montreal called La Tulipe, which is called the Tulip. And another neighbor did a complaint, and now they're closing that place too. So it's a shame because music is so important. I don't know what's your relation with music, but it fucking
Right.
saved my life. So
I think
uh,
I think it saved my life in many points in my life where I've really hit rock bottom and music's been there, and it's kind of been an outlet and a therapy and a form of medicine. I think to
yeah.
release those emotions and feelings. So I'm really sorry to hear that as well. But Has the cost of living impacted you and your band and the touring and even going abroad and like doing international tours? Has that had an impact on you and your careers?
Well, of course, but it's hard to rely on grants. It's hard to rely on we've been fortunate enough to like we did a few shows in Montreal and they sold out. So basically we didn't lose any money and we had money to put in the PR and like everything we credit for video clips so we sold out shows and we did beautiful video clips and we were lucky enough to have a good team that would give a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of love to the videos. And they look, I think it's not my work, but I think their work is astonishing. It's beautiful. And we were lucky enough because I think if we had to pay the real price, we'd be in debt, in serious debt. But yeah, so of course, we do it for the love and people are like, oh wow, you guys are great and you guys are so huge because you did so much like beautiful videos and like, well, we're kind of lucky because we have a beautiful crew, a guy called Made by Malo. We just got nominated for best animation video in at Le Gamic. um, and it's because of his work because he spent like 2 months on this project and we paid him a little bit of money, but not what it's worth. So it's for a song called Napoleon, if you want to check it out.
Okay, I will definitely check that out and I'll leave some links as well below in the description afterwards. I was also
Yeah.
going to say to you, you mentioned about merchandise earlier on. So when you're
Yeah.
doing tours, did you find that the merchandise really supplemented a lot of the work that you were doing? And in order for you to get that profit, in order for you to do the rest of the things that you had to do?
Yeah. Again, we were lucky enough to have friends that do that help us out. And I'm doing all the illustration as well. So we don't have I don't get paid for that. Hopefully I will one day, but not for now. And I think that the visuals is are so important because we love a band called another band from the UK called Gorillaz, of
Oh, I love
course.
thrillers. Yeah. Yeah.
And the illustrations are so important, and they're part of the band basically. So we're trying to do kind of not the same thing, but integrating the visuals into the music because they're so important and yeah, I wanted to be a visual artist before I ended up being a musician, so I'm kind of doing both dreams at the same time.
You're fusing your genres as well as your talents, which I love. And I think that's what you've got to do these days, right? It's very diverse and you've got to diversify those income streams. I think that's part of success these days. It's not all one way. So
Yeah.
it's really, really important. What kind of advice could you give to artists and bands that are looking to start out? Because I think this is something that I notice a lot actually when I look at other bands and look at other acts, is they might be great at singing, but there's just nothing else going on behind them. It's just them on a stage and it seems a bit bland. What kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, it's always hard because everybody has their own journey
Yeah.
and just I know it's gonna sound a little bit cliche, but I'm gonna talk about the Beatles again, but
Yeah.
they, of course, because they're my favorite. I've got tattoos of the Beatles on me, so uh, they started because they love rock and roll and they love R&B and they love Elvis and they love Little Richard and they try to emulate them and figure out what's the recipe because there's a lot of rock and roll stuff, but
Yeah.
what makes Little Richard different? What makes Chuck Berry different? What makes the Everly Brothers different? And try to get inspired by what you like and trying to figure out what's different about you. What makes you unique? Because there's a lot of cool guys and there's a lot of cute girls and there's a lot, but what makes you unique outside of like, well, maybe you're cute, maybe you're cool, but you're
You,
probably more than that.
you need more than that as well these days. And I think it's about finding your unique selling point as well and also connecting with the fans in a relatable way. So how do you find that? And with the music that you're making and the genre that you do, what's
Yeah.
the best way that you find to connect with your fans?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm a social worker.
Yeah.
And it always amazed me, like when I'm in therapy doing like being the social worker, and I always get touched by people are that are talking about stuff that's really personal to them. And sometimes you think to reach a lot of people, you have to be like spread a big message. But sometimes when you speak about your truth, it's gonna touch other people's hearts. I don't know, it's a little bit cliche, but it's
Saying
like
actually, the more personal you are, the more people you're actually going to reach. Rather than trying to reach
that's it.
that message, the more unique and personal you are, the more people you actually reach because it touches,
Exactly.
changes their minds, which
Exactly. So it's about uniqueness. It's about like because there's a lot of people on Earth, but there's only you. Like I don't know. Have you ever heard of Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood?
have. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I love him. Fred
yeah,
Rogers is amazing, and I drew him on on one of the T-shirts we did.
yeah.
Like there were a lot of anyways, and Mr. Rogers says like there's only one you in the whole world, and that what makes you special is because there's only one you, and I don't know, it just touches my heart the way Fred Rogers speaks. So
I think it's about being unique and being yourself as well, because when you're yourself, you're authentic. And a lot of these, I think when we go back to the 90s, a lot of that was manufactured. But today,
yeah,
they're moving more towards authenticity and being your authentic self, because the more authentic you are, the more relatable you become. And the younger generations can see through that now as well. So I think there's a massive shift in the music industry and entertainment as well to try and be the relatable people that you can be, but as
yeah,
personal as you can be, So I think that's really, really important, actually.
yeah, it is because like you said, like you can feel it when it's not genuine. You
Yes,
can like maybe there's one big hit, but you can do a whole career on being phony. Um,
you can't fake
and
it.
pardon me?
You can't fake it till you make it all the time. you
That's
know
it. You can fake a little bit, but not fake who you are. And but the problem is, it's easy to say, but it's hard to do because basically get being rejected when you're not being yourself is hard, but being rejected when you're being yourself, that's even harder. So that's why people don't want to be themselves and show who they are because it's the fear of abandonment. So
which I've been through myself as well as a child. So I think that's something that I do struggle with at times. So what kind of advice would you give to artists that do struggle with those kind of things there? That sometimes, because what I say to myself is it's not personal. So don't take it personally because it's an industry and that's just the way it is. But
yeah.
some people could easily take that quite personally, and it could damage their confidence because I think confidence is another thing. So what kind of advice would you give to those kind of artists and groups that are out there?
Mm. I'd say go go to therapy. I'd say just to understand yourself, understand what's in your in français, in French we say angle mort. How you say your
So how you
help
grew
me
up,
out.
your
Your what?
upbringing.
No, angle mort is kind of a when you're driving, you look in your mirror, but there's like a space you can't see.
Blind spot.
Your what?
Blind spot.
Your blind spot, exactly.
Yeah.
Just to understand what's in your blind spot and why does it hurt that much, and that way when you understand and it's life's work, but when you understand what hurts, you're more inclined to not taking it personal
Yes.
and gather yourself with people that love you for who you are and not for what you do. Because, when I had the band, a rock and roll band, and we used to travel all over Canada and we did a tour in China, I
Lovely.
had a lot of friends. But when I stopped doing this band, like people disappear magically. So
Yeah.
you're trying to like, well, build some strong relationships, strong friendship, and people that like you not for what you do or for but who you are deep down. And yeah, and they see through because it looks good, like being on stage, and people like that. But like, there's a TV show, I think you have it, The Voice in the UK.
Had a think.
And often people around me would say, "Why don't you go at The Voice. I'm like, well, why should I go? And people they tell me like, well, that way I could say that I know somebody that went on The Voice. I'm like, well, I don't
Well,
want to go for you. If I
I do, and none of them made it. So it's okay. Even if you do get on there, it's really difficult and it's a challenge. And I suppose you get some exposure, but it doesn't always mean you're going to make it right. So sometimes God's rejection is God's protection. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah,
Now look at
exactly.
and now look at you. You're doing really, really well. So well done. So just keep persevering.
Yeah, well, I think the perseverance comes from I know being stubborn maybe a little bit, but I think it's now enjoying the process
Yeah.
and enjoying the music and
Yeah.
enjoying the what it makes me feel like the joy that finishing a song and you're proud of. I love like modern fencing. I love that song, the song I talked about earlier, but it's I don't care if it gets 0 views. Freaking love that song. And what consists what consists made with the pianos and the beats from Phil and the voice of Marie-Lise. I think it's a really good song and I really like it. I don't care if it gets views or not. So,
Wow, that's
and
what
a beautiful video too. But yeah.
something that means something to you. And I think that's part of it as well. It's from your heart, isn't it? It's something you've created and you love. And it's not about trying to appeal to the masses, it's about telling a story. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we're missing in music these days is telling a story, an authentic story that we can relate to.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of place like marketing is a big like there's a lot of energy into marketing and visuals and I really love visuals, but there, there it has to have something behind that. You have something to support it because
Behind
beautiful pictures are getting likes are getting us a lot of likes, but hopefully people will listen to the music and not just to see our pretty faces.
integrating things as well, right? You're not just using the music, you're integrating other arts with your music, which I find really, really interesting and fun because not everyone does that. And that's unique in its own way, right?
Yeah, well, that's why it's at first I was like, is it a curse? Because being a social worker, being a musician, being an illustrator, there's nothing in that makes a lot of money. So I'm like, well,
Right.
how am I making a living out of it? So now I'm trying to blend like I love Carl Gustav Jung
Okay.
and I like the psychanalyst. How you say it in English? I don't even know.
I think so. Is that psychoanalyst?
Psychoanalyst, yeah. And I love like illustrations and gorillas and music, so I try to blend everything. I'm like, well, if those are curses, I'm gonna put them together, and hopefully, it's gonna be a beautiful treasure.
Some
So
magic together and make it work. That's what it's all about. It's like songwriting sometimes. When you're writing with different people and you've got different people that come in, it's like cooking, isn't it? Like you're adding a few different ingredients, and you're trying a few different things and see if it works. And I'm sure it
yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Is there a lot of Canadian bands in the UK like you've heard of?
Yes, I go to quite a lot actually, a lot of different conferences that they have over here in the UK from MMF Canada. And they've also got showcases that they do, like international showcases. So it's really, really interesting. You get to see some emerging talent. So I love that. So I'll send you some links afterwards actually with some people you
Yeah,
can find out and
I'd be
hopefully
glad to hear them.
as well.
That's awesome.
No worries. I was also going to say to you as well, like, being in the music industry, what would you like to see change in the next couple of years, especially over in Canada and the international stuff you're doing? What would you like to see change or what would you like to see improve?
I've talked earlier about Music Plus, which was a great platform to discover music. Now, I don't feel like there's a lot of, even though we spend a lot of time on the internet and we watch less TV, but it's like watch less telly, I must should I say. I love the UK accent. The British accent is awesome. Um, I'm not gonna do it though.
I'm
Pardon
joking.
me?
Have I got one? I hope not. Joking.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Cute.
And I would love to hear mu more music, more Canadian music in. Canadian TV shows. Um, yeah, because on Canadian radios, because there's a lot of good bands here, even in Quebec. Like there's a lot of good bands in French, in English. I don't know if you heard about they're called the Deluxe. They're
Actually,
awesome. Probably one of the best singers in Canada. Her name is Anna Francis Meyer. She's awesome. I could write it down because it's in French. It's called Les Deluxe,
please do.
but uh, they've been traveling all over Europe, all over the UK, all over United States, Canada. She has an amazing voice. They're like a duo, a couple, and they play rock and roll like you've never heard it before. They're amazing. And for a reason, I don't know, because they're perfect, they're not huge stars around the world, and they should be.
No,
So, so yeah, basically, it's I would like to hear a lot more music and discover more music, and yeah, I could talk about like bands in Montreal, just like in Montreal, that are amazing, beautiful, amazing songwriters, amazing musicians. Um,
don't get the exposure. They don't get the promotion. They don't have the right people around them either, right?
Even if they have like the right label, the right team, I don't know. There's like a wall between like what's happening in the industry and the mainstream media. So what would be awesome is just to have them all over mainstream media because yeah, we have The Voice,
I
but basically it's all covers. And now it's not about singing songs from the 80s or 90s. I love the 90s,
I say,
but it's about seeing what's going on.
yeah, we want to see some new stuff.
Yeah, new stuff and that's talking about what we're living through right now.
100%, 100%. I was also going to say to you, what would you like to see, like coming up in Canada? And obviously, you've got all this stuff going on. What would you like to see for your band in the future? And how can we try and support you more internationally, especially over here in the UK? Is there any more we could do over here to help support you and your group and people
Yeah,
like
well, just talking about it, that's awesome. One of my friends lives in Leeds
yeah,
right now, and she uh, she bought a cap. I just made a cap, and it's like it's like a boat sinking, and it's written "Ship happens."
I love that.
So
Or shit happens,
so
shit happens. Yeah,
that's
oh,
it.
I like that bit of comedy as well.
Yeah, a little bit. And she's a barista in Leeds, and everybody liked the cap, so everybody wanted one.
Right.
And so it's a way of like spreading the word of like Tango Golf Tango and just talking about it. Make it play in a cafe, make it play in a coffee shop and in a restaurant. Just talk about it, enjoy it, live
Enjoy.
and buy some
You
merch.
have to enjoy it. I think you already touched on that. As long as it's from the heart and you really enjoy it, that's the main thing, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Because I talk about la sécurité. I'm like, well, I'm gonna put my t-shirt on today because I love them.
Sunglasses, and I'm like, wow, it looks cool. It looks even better without La
Yeah,
Securite.
la sécurité. They're
Yeah,
awesome.
I love it. It's really awesome,
Yeah.
actually. I was going to say to you as well, what have you got coming up? Have you got any major wins or successes you would like to share with us before we go?
Yeah, well, but before that, I would say would like to say thank you because what you're doing is amazing and it's helping bands and it's helping music and it's helping arts and love. And so you're doing a lot. So thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. I do it from my heart and I do it because I want to give people a platform. I know how competitive the music industry can be, but I
Yeah.
want to support this worldwide and I want to support bands, acts, even music industry professionals and just tell some of the stories that people have to go through. Because
Yeah.
not you see behind the scenes. They see people on stage, but I don't think they realize a lot of the work that goes on behind those scenes, which is the
Being
creative
on stage is like 1% of the whole work.
side. So I'm trying to shine a
And
light on the other stuff and also support you along the way. So it's an absolute pleasure and thank you again as well and all your group for the support, for the work you do. And just keep doing what you do. I really appreciate it.
well, thank you and you're welcome. But it's crazy because we're a band from Montreal, and when we say like the BBC played our song, everybody's like, "Oh my God, you guys are so big!" I'm like, but it's just because we're being played outside of Montreal, outside of Canada. So,
Yeah.
like, when we're gonna talk about this podcast, oh yeah, I had the like an interview with somebody from the UK. Everybody's gonna be, "Oh my God, from the UK, that's amazing!" I'm like, well, that's how it helps the band because everybody thinks now we're international because of you.
You are. No, not just because of me, because of the BBC. And they are a
And the
great.
BBC, and we had a lot of, another interview, and I think a lot of radio plays us outside of Canada. So basically, hopefully, we'll do a show in the UK. That would be my one of my. I'd love to play the Cavern Club in Liverpool, but
When you do come to the UK, especially if you come to London, I hope you don't forget me because I'd love to come along and support your show.
London is one of my favorite cities in the world. I love London. It's beautiful. It's expensive but beautiful. I love what it's gonna. Actually, I want to play in Berlin and then I want to play in London. For me, like when I visualize it, I'm gonna play in London and I'm gonna play in Berlin.
Awesome. Where can people find the work that you do, your songs, and any links that you have? Where could they find the work that you do at the moment?
On every platform that rips is ripping us off. But every like Spotify, of course, Apple Music. But if people want to see what we're doing, I think a lot of the work goes into the videos. So they should check out our videos on YouTube, like Napoleon, which got nominated for best uh, animation not podcast, but video. Um, Modern Fencing, Insight, which is there's a lot of work into that too, and Holy Days, which is kind of got like our producer uh, ha had a lot of traveled all around the world, and he put shots from Costa Rica, Mexico into the work, so it looks good. So yeah.
All those links in the description below. And thank you. We've literally got 30 seconds left. I want to say thank you ever so much. Keep up the amazing work, and I will be in touch soon. Really,
Yes, thank you, and keep being who you are.
thank you so much. Thank you,
All
Alexander.
right.
Thank you.